Hey friends, it is Wednesday, which means it is Ask a Flower Farmer, and it's your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler, and thanks for joining me here. So the story is, I'll do my best to answer any of your questions, and if you'd like for me to try, you just need to post your questions down in the little bubble at the bottom of the screen with the question mark in it. That way I don't miss your question scrolling through all the comments and the names. So post your questions. We can talk flower farming, growing, business, farm dogs, conditioning, whatever your pleasure is. And I want to just show you a couple of things that, I'm going to show you this because these are things that I'm making big use of right now. And that is, have y'all seen like these major plant stakes? These are like 18 inches. Then I'm going to hit myself in the head with them. And these are 12. And then we have some even shorter ones. We have 4 different sizes. I cannot tell you, if you've actually been with me walking through my garden, how I have to like look at the stakes to be able to tell you what things are. I used to be a really bad marker. But now, as life goes on, we have these because I use them in the garden, right? So anyway, so check those out. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, guess what's back in stock? My favorite shear, y'all. These are the actual shears that I use on the farm and I have used for years. It's actually a bonsai shear, and they are, I'm just taking them apart out of the package here, sorry. They are much, much lighter weight. I used to be a Felco #2 user for probably the first 10 or 12 years. But as you do this too much, your arms get a little weary. And as you age, totally and completely, I cut that thing off right there. I don't like that. Super duper simple and easy to use. And this will end it all. The reason that I can use the same pair of clippers for more than one season is because I always have a pouch on my hip. And this is a pouch with a clip. And you'll find that also on our website. And I will tell you that if you need a Valentine's Day present, you better, well, I don't even know we can get it to you on time now, but you can try, right? But this is like the best gift ever, but you want to give it to yourself because I totally, completely you can look at most of the images of me when I'm out in the garden. You can always see that this is on my hip. And the shears have been out of stock for a couple of months, I think. So anyway, we're just really glad to have them back. Wait a minute. Sorry, y'all. I'm dropping stuff everywhere. So before I jump in, and I see we have some questions down there, I want to tell you something. This is not so much for the new flower farmers. This is for the flower farmers that maybe, this is your 3rd or 4th season or even your 2nd season. And maybe you're hiring your first person or you're thinking about doing that. Basically, you're growing your business, right? And I want to tell you something that is really a struggle for me to do, but it is so imperative when you start, the glitchy, the name that, you see all over the social media is scaling your business. That just means growing your business, y'all. But when you start doing that, one of the hardest things for the leader of the pack, the owner, the person in charge to do is that you can no longer work in the business every day. You have to designate time to work on the business. So what the heck does that mean? That means that if you are the one working in the business every single day, just simply handing out chores and tasks to people, you've done nothing but really created a job for all of y'all. That, you know what I mean? It's like the business, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, your business would end. But when you start employing people, as I see so many flower farmers are doing this now, you have to step away from the business each and every week. This is not just planning time. And because you're the only one that can think ahead, plan the big picture, plan new stuff, learn, educate, all of the key ingredients to really building a business, not just building a job for yourself. and for the people that are following along with you. And that just means building an amazing team, as we have just got the best ever team here. And we don't assign chores and tasks. We give accountability to people. And it's like, here's your little area. You're the lifeguard. And so but it's really hard for me to do this because I actually have to kind of like take, a couple of days a week to actually do that kind of stuff. And it's really hard for me knowing that there's folks doing things in other areas of our business that I'm not there helping them with, but that's what it takes. So I just really wanted to share that with people, because now is the time for you to figure out, how are you going to have a morning or a day to work on your business, not be working in your business, right? Anyway, all right, let's see what y'all got for some questions here. And before I forget, I wanted to remind everybody I'll be on Clubhouse at 1 o'clock. That's another phone app, social media. If you aren't there, get the phone app, join Clubhouse, then join my club, Flower Farming. And we're talking about a lot of fun stuff today. We're revisiting, have we relied too much on row covers? I'm starting salvia cuttings soon, like tomorrow on Facebook Live, and talking about what's in my grow room. So join me over there. So I'm looking. Using shop lights, what bulbs do you use? Well, we actually have grow lights, blue, palomino. I can't even read it, I'm sorry. But if you're using shop lights, the thing is that whether the light bulbs burn, and was basically from a study. I forget if it was Cornell or who did it. If you're using regular light bulbs, non-grow lights, that even though the light bulbs have not burnt out, you need to replace them once a year if you want to have that intense light, or as close to that intense light that you can get from a grow light. And we are always big T8 and T12 bulb users. And so that should hopefully help you. I hear my dog whining. Can you let Tucker out maybe if nobody's going in and out of the door? So have y'all even noticed? If you see behind me, we have totally had a makeover here in the fulfillment center. So, there he is. There he is. So I came to stand over here. That's an that cardboard is one of the things that's in short order these days. We can't get a lot of the boxes that we need. Anyway, so there's our stockpile, y'all. Or at least that's what they work from. When seedlings grow at different rates, what do you do about planting? So Carla has asked that. So that does sometimes happen, where one will half of the tray will germinate, let's just say, and I have no explanation why this happens. 50% of them sprout out of the gate, and then after you move them under the grow light, because 50% are up, the others kind of like come along. And, for us on our farm, just because we're so busy, everybody gets planted at the same time. So we try to wait to plant it until the smallest are big enough, but we don't sacrifice the bigger ones either. So you have to find that happy medium, because we have just found we never get back to finish planting the smaller ones. And also we want to fill our beds up completely. So, we just try to let the most, I guess is what I'm trying to think of, the most of the smaller ones get to an acceptable size to be able to be planted. In a smaller operation, you might be able to really deal with that a whole lot better. My larkspur looks sad. The leaves are light green. I'm in South Alabama. Should I go ahead and start fertilizing? What should I use? So, I wouldn't start fertilizing until it warms up and, stuff starts to grow. And so if it is a fertilization problem, that'll just kind of sit there and hold. If you have a soil-borne disease, there's several different ones that you can that are very common. And you have to have a soil test done to find it. I would definitely take a soil test now, and take it to your ag agent, your extension office, and ask them to test it. Tell them you're experiencing yellowing. You want to test it and see if you have a disease. And other than just waiting till they start too long, until they start actively growing, that's when I would fertilize them. Mulching for a severe drought. Yeah. Definitely need mulch if you're in a drought. With T8 grow lights, about how many inches above the seedlings should they be placed? And no, I don't use any LEDs. Ours are regular, whatever you call them, fluorescent lights, I guess I'm sure there's a more technical name for that. But if you're using T8s or T12s, those can be placed literally just a couple of inches above the canopy of seedlings or the tops of your soil blocks. And that way, that little bit of warmth that those T8s and T12s give off, we really feel like contribute to benefit your actual transplants. Do you foresee getting in more XL soil blocking trays and eucalyptus seeds? All mentioned items are on order and have been on order. The unfortunate thing is for the XL trays, literally they come across the ocean. They come from England. And, we literally don't know when they're coming until we actually have a truck backing into our driveway. Literally. The last gazillion that we got, we totally did not expect them. So our fingers are crossed. We just talked this morning about how many orders do we need to have on standby? You know what I mean? Additional orders. So I'm right there with you. We want them as bad as you. And eucalyptus, yes, that hopefully will be soon. And I tell you, for any product that's out of stock on our website, we have a method on our website that whenever a product goes out of stock, it automatically comes up and says get notified when it's back in stock. You definitely need to sign up, because here's what happens. We notify those people. The minute we put them back in stock, those people get an email. And what'll happen is those people will know before the general public, and sometimes, like eucalyptus and the XL trays, both of those potentially could sell out before the world even knows that they're back in stock. So whenever there's anything, seed, whatever, you always want to sign up to get notified. I can't remember when you said you start sunflowers. We're in the same zone. Well, first, it's not really about the zone. It's about your frost dates when you actually plant them. And we push the envelope because we hoop and cover them. And so last year, so we aim to plant them at the end of March. And that means we start them 3 weeks before that. So the first week of March is pushing it. But you have to know you are risking the weather. If it goes down to 20 degrees, I'm not so sure even in the row cover, but I will tell you that last year's ours, even at like 18 inches tall, stood up to below freezing with the hoops and row cover. And that's just with the Ag 19 that we sell, the lightweight row cover, and they did amazing. And it would be really fun for us to be able to hear from people, so write it down. When did you start? When was your frost date? What zone are you? What were the temperatures like? So that everybody can benefit from that. The possibility of having sunflowers for Mother's Day outweighs the risk of any cost of any seed, for sure. I'm confused about the starting time for direct sown seeds versus seed started inside. If I'm starting indoors 4 to 6 weeks before first frost, I direct sow as well. Okay, so Laura's Garden, so you're not alone in being confused about that, or about direct sown versus transplants. So the rule with Cool Flowers is, the goal is that we plant cool season hardy annuals. 2 windows of opportunity is fall planting and very early spring planting, okay? Both of them should be planted, when I say both of those dates, the optimal window is 6 to 8 weeks before that frost date, Okay, so let's talk about fall, because fall is the only time I direct seed. So this really isn't an issue for me in very early spring. So in the fall, 6 to 8 weeks before my first winter frost is like mid-September. So if I should be planting transplants in my garden during that window of 6 to 8 weeks time, then I had to have started those transplants however many weeks before that date, right? Well, if you're direct seeding, you're also direct seeding directly in the garden at that 6 to 8 week window time, because y'all, the window is to give, whether it's a seed that needs to sprout and grow into a little plant, or a transplant that needs to become established. That gives both of those opportunities to that planting for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So you direct seed and plant transplants at the same time out in the garden. Does that make sense? So that 6 to 8 week window time is giving them time to do whatever they're supposed to do before hard winter sets in. I hope that clears that up. Have you or heard of ever tried freezing soil blocks with seeds, yarrow, let thaw, and germinal heat mat? I have not ever, and I don't know what the need. I mean, if you're talking about stratifying seeds, we don't really plant anything that needs to be stratified. So no, I haven't, and that would be interesting. Can you speak to Lisianthus real quick? Do you start these seeds? Nope, I order in plugs. And if so, recommendation on where to order from. Can they be fall planted if hooped and covered? So Lisianthus is in the book Cool Flowers. Most people miss it. And they're winter hardy, we know, to zone 7. I have been told they're winter hardy further north, and it's really wet feet that they fall victim to. So yes, we fall planted them. I've shown them in the garden a couple of times, and we used to fall plant them when we were in high production, but we did it this year as we're doing a little test. And I will tell you that I don't think it's this Saturday. I just did a podcast with Dave Dowling on Lisianthus, and it's coming out in the next 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I don't have the schedule, but it's coming out. So if you don't subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast app, you should. Dave and I talked about snapdragons. It will change your life. I learned so much about extending the bloom season. So anyway, sign up for the Field and Garden podcast. And if you are a small grower, you have to buy plugs from plant brokers. You can buy them from Ball, Germania, and then there's Farmer Bailey, who is for people that don't need quite so many. I'm having trouble germinating snapdragons in the small block. Should I put them on the heat mat? Not sure what I did wrong. So we germinate pretty much everything on a seedling heat mat for Cool Flowers with cookie cooling racks underneath the trays to cool them down a bit, but they definitely need warmth. And then we actually lay the wide weave burlap. The wide weave burlap. We just lay on top, and that helps it to retain moisture. And so if you didn't put them on heat, that is probably the problem. So you'll find the clippers on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. Hi, Lisa. I'm starting my sweet peas indoors. They need darkness to germinate, but please confirm they do not need heat mat. My grow room is about 60 to 65 degrees. Thank you. So interesting. So last year I tested this out, and we had excellent germination. Farmer Bailey, where I just mentioned that he's a plug broker as well as a sweet pea seed producer. He said that he germinates his sweet peas at 55 degrees. So we plant sweet peas in the 2-inch soil block. And I literally set them outside on the carport in the kind of weather that we're having now, maybe a little bit warmer, when the days were, getting up into the 40s and 50s, and we had excellent germination. So it felt like it takes longer. It takes about 10 to 14 days, but it did great. So, so I didn't do them on the heat last year or this past fall, actually. 7B, what cool flowers should I start now? Well, again, it's not about your zone. It's about your frost date. And you really want to hit that window to really embrace the the cool flower concept and the benefits of that, meaning tall stems, more abundance. You really have to get them into that window of six. You need to be able to plant transplants 6 to 8 weeks before your frost date. And so if you're already past that, if it's like, your 6 to 8 weeks ours is next week. So if it's not started, we've already missed that window of opportunity. You really can't direct seed with much success. It's just too cold outside. The seeds will just sit there and wait until the conditions get conducive to what they need, but then you've missed that opportunity of them becoming established, right? That's the whole point. So it's really about your frost date. And so we're doing lots of experiments on the farm this year. We're trying to push cool flowers. And we are planting. I just actually did shopping. I did a little shopping of my own, y'all, on our seed racks and pulled a bunch of cool flowers for Bobo to start probably next week to plant beyond that 6 to 8 weeks. And what's the risk? All the risk is the same problems that people face by planting cool flowers in the spring, like once it's already warm. We have short stems. They aren't very abundant. They aren't very well established. So we're trying to figure out how we can push the envelope a little bit. So we shall see. Hi, Lisa. When planting Orlea, which is white lace flower, do you insert tip down to the soil? That is the one flower from Cool Flowers that I have really changed my mind on the way to start it. We direct seed it now, and because it really takes cool temperatures. And so it does not need darkness to germinate. If I remember that right, I haven't got a book. Y'all, I have to look at Cool Flowers constantly to see, does it get covered or not get covered? I believe it does not get covered, and it's kind of hard to germinate indoors. I would say that you would treat Orlea indoors like we do Ami Magus and Daucus. They go on the heat for 24 hours, and then we just take them off the heat and set them somewhere in the room, not under light necessarily, in cooler conditions, and just wait a week, and I bet you they'll sprout. So I don't know that it really matters which way you place it. Rich asks, do you ever have volunteer plants come up in your beds? Oh yeah, all the time. However, if you are a commercial cut flower farmer, you cannot rely on reseeding. You would never not plant something like Bupleurum or Ami Magus or Orlea, all these ones that can be reseeders, because you need a dedicated amount and you need to know that it's going to come up. Yes, we definitely get sporadic. Right now I have a bunch of Bells of Ireland that are popping up in our crimson clover where Cool Flowers was last year. And that's a nice little bonus. They don't always get to stay though. Depends on what's going to be planted there. But if you're a home gardener, you can really embrace, and I talk about in Cool Flowers that kind of focusing in, especially if you're a home gardener, planting all of those potential reseeders in one area, and I call that the self-appointed garden. It's a lot of work because you can't mulch it very well, and which means it needs a lot of hand weeding, but you don't have to replant stuff, so that works really, really well. Fresh Cut Farms. My stock is about 3 to 4 inches, and it's 5 weeks old. Our last frost is March 15th. I'm planning to set it out with protection by this Saturday. I hope I'm doing the right thing. Well, in fact, thank you for putting your frost date, Fresh Cut Farm. March 15th is your last frost date. Stock could have been planted 6 to 8 weeks before that date. So you could have actually planted that the 1st of January or mid. Stock does not like heat. So I would say you definitely need to get it outdoors. You need to acclimate it to the cold and then hoop and cover it. I acclimate my Cool Flowers, hardening it off, some people call it, out in the garden because I hoop and row cover them out there to protect them from wind. And So you need to get them outside as soon as possible. So yes, you are doing just fine. And y'all, each year we get better and better at this. Tucker's just pacing around. Do you always use heat mats and grow lights for your seeds? Yes. Well, I take that back. So cool season, cool flowers, we use a Seedling heat mats and cookie racks. Warm season, summer stuff, I have a germination chamber I use, but 100% grow lights. Everything goes under grow lights. If one was to try growing sunflowers for cutting, can you share your top 3 favorites? We pretty much only grow for commercial cut flowers, which would be, the most gorgeous colors, longest lasting, strongest necks are pro cuts. You can find the seed on our website. They go from seed to bloom in 55 to 60 days. The orange is the go-to most prolific, meaning it's got the stiffest necks. Some of the specialty colors aren't quite as stiff. My go-to for the pro cuts is orange, gold light, and I would say the third one, if I had to grow another one, is the Sunfill, which is not a pro cut, but it follows the same suit, and it's green. The Sunfill green is the other one, and we cut it before it opens, and it's awesome bouquet filler. I worry about direct sowing and planting out small plants. Slugs can take everything in the UK. Hi, Joanna from the UK. So, yeah, that's a really great point. I tell you that since we really went down the road, well, almost a decade ago, of really restoring the natural order of our farm, meaning we stopped using any and all pesticides, whether it's organic or otherwise. And that allowed our predators to kind of get back in control of my garden, because what folks don't realize is organic or otherwise, when you're using products out in your garden, you're not just killing the bug you're looking at. You're pretty much really touching and impacting everybody that's out there. And there are far more beneficial insects than there are bad ones. So for us, we really don't have a slug problem anymore, is what I'm getting at. But for those people that do, I understand about direct seeding and young seedlings. So you really need to kind of do some combat for your slugs. We find that here we use beer. Beer has yeast in it, and the yeast is very attractive to slugs. Just use a shallow saucer. Some beers are yeastier than others. I am sure, Joanne, I don't think you can find it in the UK, but here in the States, good old Pabst Blue Ribbon, Cornell University did a study years ago and found that Pabst had the strongest yeast smell, and that was the most preferred by slugs. So you just put a shallow amount of beer in the saucer, and you kind of snug it down in the soil so that the slugs can just kind of come right in. They fall in the saucer, they drown and get soused while they're doing it, right? It really, really works well. The other things you can do is to lay a board in your garden or bricks, and at night go out there and flip them over and hand pick them. That's really pretty gross. But once what are some of the natural predators of slugs? A lot of ground beetles, y'all. Sometimes people, I see people squish them and it almost breaks my heart. They eat slugs, and actually slug larvae, lots of different beneficial insects eat. So my book, Vegetables Love Flowers, talks about that, and it actually shows the slug trap. So you can actually see how to do that. Vegetables Love Flowers is really about a 3-season cutting garden, and it's my method of gardening without pesticides, without intervention of organics or otherwise pesticides. So you can check that out. And then Joanne, the other thing I would say is to get your transplants a little bit bigger before you put them out. And do the best that you can with that, because I totally understand what you're facing there. When removing the frost cloth as the days get warmer, have you struggled with sun damage? My fall sown snaps got a little sun bleached. If they've been out there all winter, you would think, if it's a lightweight row cover, which means 85% of light gets through, they really shouldn't get damaged, but it can happen, first off, and they'll grow out of that if that does happen. But we basically remove our covers. We'll be removing covers, we hope, the 1st of March. That's when we start doing a little bit of hand weeding and just kind of getting the garden ready, because we want to get netting on our beds ASAP because what will happen is all of a sudden, boom, one day everything starts growing, and they will quickly grow beyond what you want before you put the netting on. So we just take ours off. I have not experienced that. Would you suggest early spring planting cool flowers even if we fall planted some? That's really a great question, Flourish Farm. So by planting in the fall and in very early spring, you can definitely extend your harvest. It does not work for all crops, and you really have to do some experimenting. Back in years and years ago, I planted everything in the fall and I planted again in very early spring, and I found many of them either bloomed at the same time as the fall planted, or they were so much less abundant and no stem length, that it wasn't worth it. And that's what each person has to kind of do for their own garden. It really depends on what your spring is like and what your summer is like. We go from winter straight into summer most often. We just don't even have spring-like weather. On the occasion that we do have a spring, I think, oh shucks, I should have planted more cool flowers in very early spring, but it's unpredictable. So that's a way to extend. So y'all, it is after 12. So thank you so much for joining me. Remember, I'll be over on Clubhouse at 1 o'clock talking about what's going on the farm. I'm kind of telling you what I'm doing. Tomorrow I'll be doing salvia cuttings on the farm for Facebook Live from the farm. And, just think about, if you are in your second or third or fourth or fifth year, you have got to start working on your business, not in your business. And I am telling you, it is a struggle. I call up and talk to my sister. I call up here and say, everything going okay? It's like, I feel like and it's not that I want to be up here controlling things by a long shot, because I do feel like I just am really quick to release, but I feel like I need to be here helping, putting in a hand. But in fact, I'm putting the biggest hand in by generating more business, finding more seeds. And y'all, we are adding new varieties of seeds all the time. You need to bookmark our new seed category. You will not believe what just came in bulk today. I'm not even going to say what it is until it's packaged and then it gets on the store, because I cannot bloom and wait to grow it. So bookmark the new seed category at thegardenersworkshop.com. And till we meet again, friends, I hope to hear you at 1 o'clock. Ciao.